The movie opens at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where Professor Gerald Lambeau, a highly respected mathematics professor, is teaching a group of graduate students. At the end of his lecture, he announces that he will write an extremely difficult mathematical problem on the chalkboard outside the classroom. He challenges the students to solve it before the end of the semester. Whoever succeeds will have their name published in the MIT Tech magazine. He adds that previous winners went on to become Nobel laureates and professors, then dismisses the class. Outside the classroom, several students stop to look at the problem on the board, but quickly walk away. A janitor named Will Hunting notices the problem, pauses, and stares at it with quiet curiosity. Later that day, Will is hanging out with his best friend Chuckie at a bar. He doesn't stay long, telling Chuckie that he's tired and wants to go home. However, once he gets home, Will begins working on Professor Lambeau's math problem, scribbling calculations on his bathroom mirror before eventually wiping them off. The next day, while the university hallway is empty, Will stops his cleaning, walks up to the chalkboard, and calmly solves the problem. Later on, Will and Chuckie are playing baseball when Chuckie mentions that a friend has invited them to a bar near Harvard and asks if Will wants to come along. Will asks what they're supposed to do there, but Chuckie says it will be fun since they can mess with the smart kids. Will agrees, and the two of them start playfully arguing over how hard Will is throwing the baseball. Back at MIT, Professor Lambeau is attending a casual reunion with fellow members of his 1972 graduating class when a few students approach him. He tries to brush them off.
It's Saturday.
Unless you want to have a drink with me tonight.
Maybe. We just couldn't wait until Monday to find out.
Find out what?
Who proved the theorem?
Surprised, Lambeau follows them to the hallway, examines the solution, and confirms that it's correct. He asks if any of the students solved it, but they all admit they didn't. Elsewhere, Will is hanging out with Chuckie and their two other friends, Billy and Morgan, watching a kids' baseball game. While they're there, Chuckie spots a girl he likes, but she's with another guy. He asks if anyone knows him, and Will explains that the man's name is Carmine and that he bullied Will back in kindergarten. They ignore the couple, and Will suggests they go get something to eat. After getting food and heading home, Chuckie starts teasing Morgan by refusing to give him his sandwich, insisting that he paid for it. As Morgan argues back, they suddenly notice Carmine and his friends harassing a girl nearby. Without hesitation, Chuckie and Will decide to start a fight. Morgan doesn't want to get involved.
Let me tell you something. If you're not out there in 2 seconds, when I'm done with them, you're next.
Come on, it's me, Will. Remember we went to kindergarten together?
Will punches him, sparking a full-blown brawl between the two groups. As the fight escalates, police officers arrive. Will continues attacking Carmine until his friends pull him away. When the officers try to arrest him, Will strikes one of them, leading to him being handcuffed and taken away. At MIT, Professor Lambeau holds another lecture and announces that the student who solved the original math problem should come forward to receive the reward. The classroom falls silent as no one steps up. When it becomes clear that no one will claim it, Lambeau reveals that he has posted a second problem on the board, one so complex that it took him and his colleagues 2 years to solve. Meanwhile, Will is released from jail and picked up by Chuckie. He tells Chuckie that his arraignment is scheduled for the following week. Later, Will returns to MIT and begins working on the new problem. Professor Lambeau and his assistant Tom walk into the hallway. They mistake Will for someone vandalizing the chalkboard. Will immediately panics and runs off,
Sorry.
while Lambeau angrily scolds him.
That's people's work. You can't graffiti here. Don't you walk away from me.
Will tells him in the most polite and gentle way to leave him alone.
Hey, you.
When Lambeau turns back to the board and reviews what was written, he is stunned to realize that the solution is completely correct.
Looks right.
Later, Will and his friends head to the Harvard bar Chuckie mentioned earlier. Before they go inside, Morgan jokes about Will losing his janitor job at MIT.
Why did you get fired, Will? Come on. Management was restructuring. My uncle could probably get you on a demo tape. Can you do that? You kidding me? I asked you yesterday if I could get a job. And I told you no yesterday.
Inside the bar, Chuckie goes to get drinks, then notices a group of Harvard girls and decides to approach them. He introduces himself and lies about being a Harvard student, even claiming he once took a history class with one of the girls, Skylar. While Chuckie is talking, another student named Clark overhears the conversation and interrupts. Knowing Chuckie is lying, Clark says he actually took the class Chuckie mentioned. He begins questioning Chuckie about the course and launches into a long, arrogant discussion about history, clearly trying to embarrass him. Will watches from nearby and steps in when he sees his friend struggling. He calmly dismantles Clark's arguments, pointing out that Clark is simply repeating ideas from a well-known history book.
You're a first-year grad student. You just got finished reading some Marxian historian, Pete Garrison probably. You're gonna be convinced of that till next month when you get to James Lemon. Then you're gonna be talking about how the economies of Virginia and Pennsylvania were entrepreneurial and capitalist way back in 1740. That's gonna last until next year. You're gonna be in here regurgitating Gordon Wood, talking about, the pre-revolutionary utopia utopia and the capital-forming effects of military mobilization.
Well, as a matter of fact, I won't, because Wood drastically underestimates the impact of social...
Wood drastically underestimates the impact of social distinctions predicated upon wealth, especially inherited wealth. You got that from Vickers. Work in Essex County, page 98, right? Yeah, I read that too. Were you going to plagiarize the whole thing for us? Do you have any thoughts of your own on this matter? Or is that your thing? You come into a bar, you read some obscure passage, and then pretend you pawn it off as your own idea just to impress some girls? Embarrass my friend?
Clark is left speechless.
See, the sad thing about a guy like you is in 50 years, you're going to start doing some thinking on your own, and you're going to come up with the fact that there are two certainties in life. One, don't do that. And two, you dropped 150 grand on a education you could have got for $1.50 in late charges at the public library.
Yeah, but I will have a degree, and you'll be serving my kids fries at a drive-thru on our way to a skiing trip.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but at least I won't be unoriginal.
Will then asks if Clark wants to take the argument outside and settle it like men, but Clark backs down and walks away. Skylar, who has been watching the exchange, is clearly impressed. Moments later, she approaches Will herself and jokingly calls him an idiot for not coming over to talk to her.
I've been sitting over there for 45 minutes waiting for you to come and talk to me, but I'm tired now and I have to go home. I couldn't sit there anymore waiting for you.
She gives him her phone number and suggests they get coffee sometime. Will agrees, and Skylar says goodnight before leaving. Afterward, Will and his friends leave the bar. Outside, they spot Clark again, and Will can't resist taunting him by flashing Skylar's phone number and bragging that he got the girl. The group then heads home. The next day, Professor Lambeau and his assistant visit Will's supervisor at MIT.
I just need the name of the student who works here.
No students work for me.
The supervisor explains that Will is not a student and that he didn't show up for work that day. He also mentions that Will got the job through his parole officer and provides Lambeau with the officer's contact information. Meanwhile, Will appears in court for his arraignment on charges of assaulting a police officer. He represents himself, confidently arguing his case. Professor Lambeau arrives and watches the proceedings.
Your Honor, Henry Ward Beecher in Proverbs from the Plymouth Pulpit, 1887, said it, and I quote,
This is the 20th century, Your Honor.
Excuse me.
Going to make a mockery of the court.
I am afforded the right to speak in my own defense, sir, by the Constitution of the United States. This is the same
Don't tell me
document
about the
which guarantees my
Constitution of the
liberty.
United States.
Now, liberty, in case you've forgotten, is the soul's right to breathe. I mean, it cannot take a long breath. Laws are girded too tight. Without liberty, man is a cinco.
Man is a what?
Ibid, Your Honor.
Will cites old legal precedents and constitutional law, attempting to argue that the case should be dismissed. However, the judge reveals that Will has a long history of charges, including assault, theft, impersonation, and other minor crimes, many of which were previously dismissed because Will successfully defended himself. This time, the judge refuses to dismiss the case, sentences Will to jail time, and sets bail at $50,000. Afterward, Will is taken back to jail. While there, he calls Skylar and introduces himself as the guy from the bar. He apologizes for not calling sooner and suggests they still go out sometime. During the conversation, he casually asks if she's a pre-law student. Later, Will is taken to a private room in the prison to meet Professor Lambeau.
Do you want?
Lambeau introduces himself.
I'm Gerald Lambeau, professor you're told to f*** himself.
And explains that he has spoken to the judge, who has agreed to release Will under Lambeau's supervision. However, the deal comes with two conditions. Will must meet with Lambeau weekly to work on advanced mathematics, and he must also attend regular therapy sessions. If he fails to comply, he will return to jail. Will agrees to the math but refuses therapy.
All right, I'll do the math, but I'm not going to meet with any therapist.
It's better than spending that time in jail, isn't it?
Soon, Will and Professor Lambeau begin working together, proving complex theories and solving advanced mathematical problems. The night before his first therapy session, Will reads the therapist's book. At the session the next day, he treats the process as a joke, mocking the therapist and ridiculing the book.
Do you find it hard to hide the fact that you're gay?
What are you talking about? What?
Look, buddy, 2 seconds ago you were ready to give me a jump.
A jump? Are you? I'm terribly sorry to disappoint you.
Hey, look, I don't have a problem with it. I don't care if you putt from the rough.
What are you putting from the rough? What on earth are you talking about?
Offended, the therapist storms out and tells Lambeau he will no longer work with Will. The following day, Lambeau brings in another therapist who attempts hypnosis. Once again, Will refuses to take the session seriously, joking and derailing the process until the therapist angrily leaves.
What? Oh, come on. He left. You can't pin that on me.
I told you to cooperate with these people.
Look into my eyes.
Get out, Will.
After Will leaves, Lambeau's assistant, Tom, asks what he plans to do next. Lambeau reveals that there is one more therapist he believes can handle Will, a former college roommate. The story then shifts to Sean Maguire, Lambeau's longtime friend and former college roommate, who now teaches psychology to undergraduate students at a community college. During his lecture, Sean explains the importance of trust in therapy when Lambeau suddenly enters the classroom. Sean pauses his lesson and introduces Lambeau to the students.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the presence of greatness. Professor Gerald Lambeau, Fields Medal winner for combinatorial mathematics.
Hello.
Anyone know what the Fields Medal is? It's a really big deal. It's like the Nobel Prize for math.
After dismissing the class, the two men head to a restaurant to talk. Lambeau asks Sean why he didn't attend their reunion, and Sean casually replies that he was busy. Lambeau then explains that he needs Sean's help with Will, insisting that Sean is the only person who can get through to him. Sean is skeptical and asks what makes Will so special. Lambeau compares Will to Srinivasa Ramanujan, a self-taught mathematical genius from India who lived over a century ago. Despite having no formal education, Ramanujan developed groundbreaking theories that stunned professional mathematicians. After sending his work to a professor at Cambridge, he went on to collaborate on some of the most important mathematical discoveries of his time. Lambeau says Will has that same rare brilliance, but his defensiveness is holding him back, and he needs someone who can break through to him. When Sean questions why Lambeau thinks he's the right person for the job, Lambeau explains that they share similar backgrounds. Both grew up in South Boston.
How many shrinks you go to before me?
And 5 therapists have already failed to connect with Will.
5.
Reluctantly, Sean agrees to help, and a therapy session is arranged. Will arrives at Sean's office and compliments the room. Sean asks Lambeau and his assistant to leave them alone. Once they're gone, Will notices the large number of books lining the shelves and asks how Sean managed to collect them. Sean asks whether Will has read any of them and what he thinks. Will dismisses the question, lights a cigarette, and says he's not there to review books.
Fancy books, you surround yourselves with them. They're the wrong books. What are the right books, Will? Hey, whatever blows your hair back. I haven't got much hair left.
You know you'd be better off shoving that cigarette up your ass. It'd probably be healthier for you.
Yeah, I know. It really gets in the way of my yoga.
He mocks Sean's taste in history, suggests different titles, and criticizes the collection. When Sean tries to make casual conversation, Will steers the discussion elsewhere. Will then notices a painting and asks about it. Sean reveals that he painted it himself and asks for Will's opinion. Will analyzes the artwork and coldly suggests that it reflects emotional pain caused by marrying the wrong woman.
Maybe you married the wrong woman.
Maybe you should watch your mouth.
Will continues, claiming Sean's wife probably left him for another man.
What happened? Why'd she leave you? Was she, banging some other guy?
Sean grabs Will by the throat and warns him never to insult his wife again. Will calmly reminds Sean that their session time is up.
Time's up. Yeah.
Sean lets him go, and Will walks out. Lambeau enters the office. Seeing Sean's shaken state, he apologizes and says he understands if Sean no longer wants to take the case. To Lambeau's surprise, Sean insists that Will return for the next session.
Thursday, 4 o'clock. Make sure the kid's here.
That night, Sean sits alone, drinking and reflecting on everything Will said. Meanwhile, Will finally goes on a proper date with Skylar. At a costume shop, they try on silly props and joke around while Skylar talks about her background. She explains that she attended a prestigious school in England, is now studying at Harvard, and plans to attend medical school at Stanford after graduating. She mentions how much money has gone into her education.
My brain's gonna be worth $250,000.
Will brushes it off, saying it doesn't matter if her parents aren't complaining. But Skylar reveals that she paid for it herself using inheritance money. Later, they go out to eat. While they're talking, Will hints that he's hoping for a goodnight kiss. Skylar suggests they just get it over with, and the two share a kiss. A few days later, Will returns for another session with Sean. Instead of staying in the office, Sean takes him to a quiet park. Sean tells Will that he spent most of the night thinking about what Will said about the painting. He explains that Will doesn't actually understand what he was talking about because he's still just a kid. Sean tells him that intelligence alone doesn't equal life experience.
I ask you about war, you'd probably throw Shakespeare at me, right? Once more into the breach, dear friends. But you've never been near one. You've never held your best friend's head in your lap and watch him gasp his last breath looking to you for help. So if I asked you about art, you'd probably give me the skinny on every art book ever written. Michelangelo, you know a lot about him. Life's work, political aspirations, him and the Pope, sexual orientation, the whole works, right? I bet you can't tell me what it smells like in the Sistine Chapel. You've never actually stood there and looked up at that beautiful ceiling. If I ask you about women, you'd probably give me a syllabus of your personal favorites. You may have even been laid a few times, but you can't tell me what it feels like to wake up next to a woman and feel truly happy. I ask you about love, probably quote me a sonnet, but you've never looked at a woman and been totally vulnerable, known someone that could level you with her eyes, feeling like God put an angel on earth just for you. who could rescue you from the depths of hell, and you wouldn't know what it's like to be her angel, to have that love for her, be there forever, through anything, through cancer. And you would know about sleeping sitting up in a hospital room for 2 months, holding her hand, because the doctors could see in your eyes that the terms visiting hours don't apply to you. You don't know about real loss, because that only occurs when you love something more than you love yourself. You're a tough kid. I look at you, I see a cocky, scared, shitless kid. But you're a genius, Will. No one denies that. No one could possibly understand the depths of you. You're an orphan, right? Do you think I'd know the first thing about how hard your life has been? How you feel? Who you are? Because I read Oliver Twist. Does that encapsulate you? I can't learn anything from you. I can't read in some f***ing book. Unless you want to talk about you. Who you are. Then I'm fascinated. I'm in. But you don't want to do that, do you, sport? You're terrified of what you might say. Your move, Chief.
With that, Sean walks away, leaving Will alone with his thoughts. The next day, Chuckie picks Will up from home, hands him a cup of coffee, and drives him to the construction site where they work. That night, Will calls Skylar from a phone booth while his friends wait in the car. When she answers, Will freezes and doesn't say a word before hanging up. When he gets back into the car, he lies and says he forgot the number. A few days later, Will returns to Sean for another therapy session. This time, neither of them speaks. Will attempts to light a cigarette, but Sean tells him,
"No smoking."
The two sit in silence until the session ends. Afterward, Sean tells Professor Lambeau that Will refused to talk, but he explains that his approach doesn't allow him to break the silence first.
What is this, some kind of staring contest between two kids from the old neighborhood?
Yeah, it is.
Despite this, Sean suggests that the silence itself is a sign of progress. Later, Professor Lambeau meets with another mathematics professor to review a theory he has been developing, with Will present. The professor insists the theory can't be solved, but Will calmly submits his solution. When the solution is projected for everyone to see, the professor is left speechless and quietly walks away. Lambeau watches with a satisfied smile. Will returns for another session with Sean. At first, he stays quiet, but then he suddenly opens up, starting with a joke about airplanes.
You know, I was on this plane once, and I'm sitting there, and captain gets on, he does this whole, we'll be cruising at 35,000 feet, but then he puts the mic down, he forgets to turn it off. And so he turns to the co-pilot, he's like, all I could use right now is a fucking blowjob and a cup of coffee. So the stewardess fucking bombing up from the back of the plane to tell him that the microphone's still on. This guy in the back of the plane's like, "Hey, hon, don't forget the coffee."
You ever been on a plane?
No, but it's a fucking joke. It works better if I tell it in the first person.
Yeah, it does.
I have been late,
Really?
He admits that he went on a date with Skylar, but has avoided contacting her since then. Will explains that Skylar feels perfect to him, and unlike anyone he has dated before. He fears that if he gets too close, he'll eventually notice her flaws, stop liking her, and ruin everything.
This girl's like perfect right now. I don't want to ruin that.
Maybe you're perfect right now. Maybe you don't want to ruin that.
Sean tells him that no one is perfect. Everyone has flaws, and what truly matters is whether someone is right for you. To make his point, Sean talks about his late wife, saying she was the most beautiful woman he had ever known, but she used to fart in her sleep.
One night it was so loud it woke the dog up. She woke up and got like, "Oh, was that you?"
See, I didn't have the heart to tell her.
Oh, God. She woke herself up. Oh, Christ.
Sean then quietly adds that even though she's been gone for 2 years, that's still one of the things he remembers most. This moment helps Will relax, and he finally begins to take therapy seriously. Sean reminds him that the real question isn't perfection, but whether he and Skylar are right for each other. Will asks if Sean would ever consider remarrying, but Sean says his wife was the only one for him. Their session ends.
Time's up.
And Will leaves, visibly affected by the conversation. The next day, Will visits Skylar at her dorm and apologizes for not calling after their date, explaining that he's been busy. He asks if they can spend time together again.
Oh, I can't.
All right.
Oh, no, I didn't mean I can't, ever. Just can't right now.
Because she's struggling with an advanced organic chemistry problem. Will suggests meeting the next day, and she agrees. Unable to wait, Will goes somewhere quiet and writes out the solution on a napkin. With his speed-reading abilities, he memorized it just by glancing at her worksheet for a second. And yeah, I forgot to mention that Will Hunton uses speed-reading techniques. That's how he reads books. He returns to Skylar's room and hands it to her. She's stunned by the answer and asks how he figured it out, but Will brushes it off with a joke. With her work done, Will suggests they go out immediately. After a brief hesitation, Skylar agrees. Soon, the two are at a dog racing track. Skylar watches the race through binoculars and cheers excitedly when the dog she bet on wins. She asks Will about his background and family. Will tells her that he has 12 older brothers. Impressed, Skylar asks if he still sees them and says that she'd love to meet them someday. Will later has another session with Sean, where he asks if Sean ever regretted meeting his wife, knowing the pain her death caused. Sean says he never regretted a single day with her. He explains how he knew she was the one, describing the exact day they met. It was during Game 6 of the World Series, one of the most important games in Red Sox history. Sean recalls how he and his friends had slept on the sidewalk all night to get tickets.
You got tickets?
They were at a bar waiting for the game to start when his future wife walked in. Sean describes how the game unfolded, staying tied until Carlton Fisk hit the legendary home run that sent thousands of fans into a frenzy. Will excitedly asks if Sean rushed the field.
And 35,000 fans charge the field.
Yeah, and he's fucking blowing
he's like, go, get on the... God, get away!
I can't fucking believe you had tickets in that fucking game!
Yeah.
Did you rush the field?
No, I didn't rush the field. I wasn't there.
What?
No, I was in a bar having a drink with my future wife.
Will is stunned that he would miss such a historic moment for someone he barely knew.
You missed Pudge Fist's home run?
Oh, yeah.
To have a drink with some lady you never met? And who are these friends of yours? They let you get away with that?
They had to.
What did you say to them?
Just slid my ticket across the table and I said, sorry, guys, I gotta see about a girl.
I gotta go see about a girl?
Yeah. That's what you said?
I had.
And they let you get away with that?
Sean says he never regretted missing the game, the 18 years they spent married, or the time he gave up counseling while caring for her during her illness. Later, Will and Skylar share a romantic moment when she again asks when she'll meet his brothers and friends. Will reassures her that it will happen soon, and the two continue enjoying each other's company. Soon after, Skylar joins Will and his friends at a bar. She quickly fits in, listening closely as Chuckie entertains everyone with a story about his Uncle Marty. Skylar even tells a joke of her own that makes everyone laugh, and it's clear that Will's friends like her. When it's time to leave, Chuckie hands Will his car keys so he can drive Skylar home. Before driving off, Skylar asks again about meeting Will's brothers, but Will deflects and says another time. Elsewhere, Professor Lambeau meets Sean at a bar to ask about Will's progress. He asks whether Sean has started talking to Will about his future, but Sean explains they're still dealing with Will's past. Lambeau insists it's time to move forward because he has already started receiving job offers for Will. Sean argues that Lambeau is pushing his own agenda, but Lambeau tries to prove otherwise by asking the bartender if he knows who Einstein is.
Tim, can you help us? We're trying to settle a bet.
You ever heard of Jonas Salk?
Sure, cured polio.
You've heard of Albert Einstein?
How about Gerald Lambeau? Ever heard of him?
No.
Thank you, Tim.
Lambeau explains that Einstein was once just a patent clerk who worked on physics in his spare time before changing the world.
Can you imagine if Einstein would have given that up just to get drunk with his buddies in Vienna every night? Tim would never have heard of him. We all would have lost something.
He insists Will has that same potential and that everything he's doing is meant to ensure it isn't wasted.
I'm nothing compared to this young man.
Sean argues that Will needs to move at his own pace and shouldn't be rushed. He cites as an example another math prodigy who also had a troubled childhood.
In the 1960s, there was a young man graduated from University of Michigan. Did some brilliant work in mathematics, specifically bounded harmonic functions. Then he went on to Berkeley, was assistant professor, showed amazing potential. Then he moved to Montana and he blew the competition away.
Yeah, so who was he?
Ted Kaczynski.
Never heard of him.
Hey, Timmy! Yo! Who's Ted Kaczynski? Unibomb!
Despite the disagreement, Lambeau reveals that he has already arranged a job interview for Will and that it's happening right now. Uninterested in the opportunity, Will sends Chuckie to attend the interview in his place. During the interview, Chuckie deliberately messes with the employers, dismissing their offers and accusing them of wasting his time. He demands $200 just to consider the job, but they only manage to offer $70. Chuckie takes the money, tells them to speak to his attorney, and walks out. Meanwhile, Will and Skylar are sitting together at an outdoor restaurant. Skylar is focused on an assignment, and when Will offers to help, she refuses, saying she needs to understand it herself because it's important. Curious, she asks how Will knows so much, especially advanced organic chemistry that even top Harvard students struggle to grasp. Will explains that it's instinctive for him. He compares himself to Mozart or Beethoven, saying that just as they could look at a piano and know how to play it, he can look at a problem and immediately understand how to solve it. Skylar is impressed and kisses him, joking that it's unfair she only met him after spending 4 years in Boston. Later, the two are lying together when Skylar asks if Will would come with her to California. She explains that she'll soon be graduating from Harvard and moving on to Stanford for medical school. The question catches Will off guard. He asks if she's serious, and she assures him that she is. Will grows uneasy and says it's a big commitment. He worries that if they go together, she might eventually discover something about him that makes her change her mind.
You might find out something about me you don't like, but you know it's such a serious thing that you can't take it back, and now I'm stuck in California. Someone doesn't really want to be with me, just wish they had a take back. I can't go to California.
Why not?
He then claims he can't leave Boston because he has a job and a life there. Skylar presses him, asking what he's really afraid of and whether he loves her. The conversation quickly turns into an argument. Will lashes out, accusing Skylar of being a rich kid who will eventually marry someone wealthy and is only dating him for the experience.
I mean, you just want to have your little fling with, like, the guy from the other side of town. Then you're going to go off to Stanford, you're going to marry some rich prick who your parents will approve of, and just sit around with the other trust fund babies and talk about how you went slumming too once.
What is your obsession with this money?
Skylar denies it and fires back.
My father died when I was 13 and I inherited this money. You don't think every day I wake up and I wish that I could give it back? That I would give it back in a second if it meant I could have one more day with him. But I can't.
Pointing out that Will hasn't been honest with her, including lying about having 12 brothers. As Will tries to leave, Skylar stops him.
No, you're not going. You're not leaving.
What do you want to know? What? That I don't have 12 brothers? Yeah. That I'm a orphan? No, you don't want to hear that.
I didn't know that.
You don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear that I got cigarettes put out of me when I was a little kid.
I didn't know
that this isn't surgery, that the motherfucker stabbed me.
He says Skylar isn't prepared to hear those things. Skylar breaks down in tears, telling him she just wants to be there for him and asking again if he loves her.
I just want to be with you because I love you.
Don't bullshit me. Don't you bullshit me.
I love you. I want to hear you say that you don't love me. Because if you say that, then I won't call you. And I won't be in your life.
I don't love you.
The next day, Will meets with Professor Lambeau. Lambeau begins reviewing a mathematical theory Will has just completed and raises a question about it, but Will cuts him off, insisting that it's correct.
But did you think of the possibility?
That's right. Let's take it home with you.
Acting distant and irritated, Will tries to leave. Lambeau stops him and asks about the job interview he arranged. Will casually says he skipped it because he had a date with Skylar and sent Chuckie instead. Lambeau becomes frustrated, explaining that Will's behavior reflects poorly on him. Will angrily demands that Lambeau stop arranging interviews on his behalf.
Maybe I don't want to spend the rest of my life sitting around explaining shit to people.
When Lambeau asks for some appreciation, Will snaps. He grabs the papers containing the mathematical theory and explodes.
Do you know how easy this is for me? Do you have any idea how easy this is? This is a joke. And I'm sorry you can't do this. I really am, because I wouldn't have to sit here and watch you fumble around and it up.
In a moment of rage, he sets the papers on fire. Lambeau rushes to put out the flames, but much of the work is already destroyed.
Yeah, you're right, Will. I can't do this, Prof. But you can, and when it comes to that, it's just a handful of people in the world who can tell the difference between you and me. But I'm one of them.
Sorry.
Yeah, so am I. Most days I wish I never met you. Because then I could sleep at night. I didn't have to walk around with the knowledge that there was someone like you out there. I didn't have to watch you throw it all away.
Days later, Will attends an interview with the National Security Agency. The interviewer explains the scope of the work and boasts that the agency is even larger than the CIA. He asks Will why he wouldn't want to work there. After thinking for a moment, Will responds by outlining a hypothetical scenario. He helps crack an unbreakable code. The information leads to the bombing of a rebel group somewhere in Africa or the Middle East. Innocent people die, and the United States installs a government that serves its own interests, such as securing cheap oil. Will says he doesn't want to be responsible for destroying lives in the name of political ambition. He ends the interview by saying he'll keep his options open. The story returns to Will's therapy session with Sean. Sean asks Will if he believes he has a soulmate. Will says it's Chuckie, but Sean explains that Chuckie is more like family. A soulmate, he says, is someone who opens up your soul. Will then lists famous philosophers as his soulmates, but Sean reminds him that they're dead, and real soulmates are living, breathing people. Sean tells Will that not many people are given the kind of opportunity he has, and that many parents work exhausting, low-paying jobs just to give their children a chance at something like this. Will argues that there is dignity and honor in those kinds of jobs. Sean counters by pointing out that Will didn't become a janitor at a prestigious university out of honor. He did it while secretly solving problems no one else could. Sean presses him, asking what he truly wants to do with his life. Will sarcastically replies that he wants to be a shepherd. Realizing Will is mocking him and refusing to be honest, Sean asks him to leave.
No, time's not up yet.
Confused and frustrated, Will snaps back, accusing Sean of giving up on life after losing his wife and settling for less. Sean calmly asks Will again what he wants to do. When Will can't answer, Sean tells him to leave, and Will walks out. Later, Will calls Skylar just to check on her before she leaves. He tells her about the job interviews. Skylar tells him that she loves him.
I love you. Will.
You take care.
Bye.
Skylar is visibly hurt. Soon after, she heads to the airport and flies to California for medical school, while Will returns to his construction job in Boston. During a break at the construction site, Chuckie asks Will about Skylar, and Will tells him she has left for medical school in California. Chuckie then has a heartfelt conversation with him. He asks about the therapy and the job opportunities Lambeau is lining up. Will says he doesn't want to spend his life as a lab experiment or sit behind a desk for 50 years.
We have a lab rat. Better than this shit.
He says he's content staying in Boston, working construction, living near Chuckie, and raising a family right where they are. Chuckie finally tells him the truth. He says Will is being selfish and foolish for throwing away his gift. He tells him that 20 years from now, it would break his heart to still see Will doing the same job.
In 20 years, if you're still living here and you're still working construction, I'll fucking kill you.
Knowing what he was capable of becoming, Chuckie explains that Will is sitting on a winning lottery ticket, and anyone else in their neighborhood would do anything to have what he has.
Because I'd do anything to have what you got.
He admits that every time he comes to pick Will up, he hopes that one day Will won't be there.
Because I think maybe I'll get up there and I'll knock on the door and you won't be there. No goodbye, no see you later, no nothing. Just left.
Because that would mean he finally left to become something more. Will quietly absorbs every word. Back at Sean's office, Professor Lambeau arrives for Will's scheduled session, only to find that neither Sean nor Will is there. He calls Sean and warns him that if Will stops attending therapy, he'll be forced to file a report.
I'm sitting in your office and the boy isn't here. An hour and 10 minutes late. Well, if he doesn't show up and I file a report saying he wasn't here and he goes back to jail, it won't be on my conscience.
A little later, Sean arrives at his office, where he gets into a heated argument with Professor Lambeau. Lambeau accuses Sean of enabling Will's fear and holding him back. Sean responds that Will pushes people away because of deep emotional trauma and a fear of abandonment.
He pushes people away before they have a chance to leave him. It's a defense mechanism, all right?
Lambeau insists that Will is strong enough to move forward, and that Sean is letting his own past influence his judgment.
Don't you do that. Don't infect him with the idea that it's okay to quit, that it's okay to be a failure, because it's not okay, Sean. And if you're angry at me for being successful, for being what you could have been, Sean.
I'm not angry at you, Jeff.
Oh, yes, you're angry at me, Sean. You resent me, but I'm not going to apologize for any success I've had.
Unbeknownst to them, Will arrives and overhears the argument.
You're angry at me for doing what you could have done, but ask yourself, Sean, if you want Will to feel that way, if you want him to feel like a failure.
Oh, you arrogant shit. That's why I don't come to the goddamn reunions, because I can't stand that look in your eye. That condescending, embarrassed look. You think I'm a failure. I know who I am, and I'm proud of what I do. It was a conscious choice. I didn't f*** up. I knew you before you were a mathematical god. When you were pimple-faced and homesick and didn't know what side of the bed to piss on.
Why are you still so f***ing afraid of failure?
Yeah, you were smarter than me then, and you're smarter than me now, so don't blame me for how your life turned out. It's not my fault.
I don't blame you. It's not about you, you mathematical dick. It's about the boy!
As tensions rise, Will steps in. Lambeau, seeing him, excuses himself and leaves. After Lambeau is gone, Will notices his case file in Sean's hand. Sean explains that he must submit progress reports to the judge.
Hey, you're not gonna fail me, are you?
Inside the file are photographs showing bruises from Will's abuse in foster care. Will asks if Sean ever experienced anything like that. Sean then reveals that his own father was abusive.
My father was an alcoholic, mean drunk. He'd come home hammered, looking to wail on somebody. So I'd provoke him so he wouldn't go after my mother and little brother. Interesting nights were when he wore his rings.
Yeah, he used to just put a wrench, a stick, and a belt on the table and just say choose.
Well, I gotta go with the belt there, Vanna.
I used to go with the wrench.
Why the wrench?
Because him, that's why.
Your foster father.
Yeah.
Will finally admits that he pushes people away as a defense mechanism because he's afraid of being abandoned, which is why he pushed Skylar away. Sean gently looks at him and tells him that everything he went through was not his fault.
You see this? All this shit. This is not your fault.
I know.
Look at me, son. It's not your fault.
I know.
No, you don't. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Don't f with me. It's not your fault.
Don't f with me, all right? Don't f
me, Sean, not you.
It's not your fault.
Eventually, the words break through. Will collapses into Sean's arms, sobbing uncontrollably and apologizing as years of pain finally come pouring out. Later that night, alone in his room, Will reflects deeply on everything that's happened. The next day, he shows up at one of the firms Professor Lambeau arranged an interview with, McNeil, and tells them he's there for the position. Will returns for his final therapy session with Sean and tells him that he accepted the job at McNeil. Sean asks if that's truly what he wants, then congratulates him, though he looks disappointed that Will have chosen the life Professor Lambeau wants for him, not his own path.
You do what's in your heart, son, you'll be fine.
Will thanks Sean for everything and promises to stay in touch, and the two share a final hug as Sean wishes him luck on his journey.
Good luck, son.
Afterward, Will meets his friends at a bar, where they surprise him with a birthday celebration. Outside, they reveal a car they built themselves as a gift.
We both scraped together the pots, and Morgan was out panhandling for change every day.
I had the rotor to do all the body work.
Chuckie explains that it will help Will get to work without needing rides. Will is overwhelmed with gratitude and thanks them sincerely. Later, Professor Lambeau visits Sean to apologize for their fallout. He notices Sean packing up his office and asks about it. Sean explains that he's taking time off to travel, to clear his head. The two men leave together for a drink. Will writes a letter and drives to Sean's house, quietly dropping it into the mailbox before driving away. Upstairs, Sean finishes packing and notices Will leaving. He goes downstairs and retrieves the letter. It says,
If the professor calls about that job, just tell him, sorry. I had to go see about a girl. Will.
Son of a bitch. He stole my line.
At the same time, Chuckie and the others drive to Will's place to pick him up. Chuckie knocks repeatedly, but there's no answer. He looks through the window, realizes Will is gone, and smiles. He returns to the car and tells the others.
Not there.
Without another word, they drive off. The film ends with Will driving west, heading toward California and a future he finally chose for himself.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.